Thank you all for coming. Welcome to this event in which we will be hearing from an extraordinary person, Eugenia Manolidou, who is a musician, a conductor, a composer, but has turned her incredible energies towards the teaching of Greek language and culture, not just in Athens, where she runs a school, Elliniki Agogi, Greek education, but internationally. And we're going to hear something more about the methods that she uses and some of the exciting projects that she is directing. I will then have a short interview with her to ask her some questions and then open the floor to the audience. So welcome, Eugenia.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Hello, very nice to see you. Don't worry, please take a seat. So thank you very much for coming, for being here. Χαίρετε, πάσετε και πάντες. Μάλα χαίρο με θυμών παρίνε. Χάριτας πολλάσιμην οφείλω και το καθηγητή D'Angour της προσκλήσεως ένεκα. It is a great honor to be here at Jesus College at the University of Oxford, an institution that has long been a beacon of excellence in the study of ancient world and the classical tradition. As someone deeply committed to expanding the reach of ancient Greek, I am grateful for this opportunity to share with you how we have embraced the active method of teaching Greek to children, even as young as 3 years old. My aim today is to demonstrate how this approach has transformed the way students engage with the language, but also rekindled their connection to the timeless values and wisdom of classical education. At Elliniki Agogi, we teach ancient Greek to children as young as 3 years old through the direct method, turning the language into a living experience. By combining active and experiential learning, we bring ancient Greek to life in a way that is both engaging and effective. Our mission is to show how accessible this language can be, particularly for Greek speakers who already have the strong foundation of modern Greek to build upon. Through this approach, we aim not only to transform how students learn ancient Greek, but also to shift a national mindset. Our ultimate goal is to convince the Greek state to adopt a teaching method that reconnects students with the priceless gift of their culture, heritage, and the wisdom embedded in this remarkable language. Greece, an ancient yet never old country, carries a timeless legacy that stretches back thousands of years, rooted in one of the world's most enduring civilizations. This continuity as a people is evident in the words of our language, but it is also evident in our customs, character, and interactions. These connections have been validated by poets, artists, folklorists, and historians. So before concluding my presentation today, I would also like to shine a light on a remarkable individual, a young scholar from Oxford, deeply passionate about classical culture, who traveled to our land from yours and was so inspired by the people and their enduring spirit that he wrote an essay where he highlights the striking similarities between the Greeks of antiquity and those of his own time. So before we move on to our teaching method, let me take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Eugenia Manolidou, and I'm a classical musician by profession, a field that has taught me the value of precision, creativity, and emotional connection, qualities that I now bring to my work as the director of Elliniki Agogi. Over the last 3 years, and after being trained on how to implement the active method in Italy and Spain, me and my team have taken a bold step in our teaching approach. We try to completely immerse our students, aged 3 to 16, in ancient Greek. This helps them in so many ways, but most of all, to instinctively realize how accessible the language can be, so by the time they reach high school, they engage with it confidently and with genuine curiosity. In the early stages, we start with simple, everyday words and connect them to sentences or dialogues. Singing, of course, plays a significant role in our classes, and I make sure we sing a lot, because music is such a powerful and joyful educational tool, and so is art. Gradually, as they grow up and their understanding deepens, we introduce them to aspects of Greek culture and customs that have remained remarkably consistent over the centuries. By connecting children to centuries-old tradition, we help them grow a deep sense of continuity with the past. For example, these days, we teach the ancient Greek custom of iresioni, which is considered to be the ancestor of the Christmas tree. Iresioni was an olive branch adorned with offerings like figs, nuts, and short threads of wool, which is called erion in Greek, from which it took its name, iresioni. It symbolized abundance and gratitude and was carried by children from house to house while they sang songs of praise to the household and offered wishes for wealth and prosperity, much like the traditional Christmas carols children sing today. In ancient Greece, these songs were called agiermi, derived from the verb agiro, which means to gather, and it's the same root that gave us the word agora. Teaching this tradition allows children to see how ancient customs remain alive by evolving into recognizable practices, but also helps them learn words and concepts that connect the past with the present. But this is not where we stop. After discussing the story, we also recreate it in the classroom. We have found that even Homer himself knew the custom and sang the songs with children that carried iresioni. We have also found a description of it in Plutarch's Life of Theseus. We put music to those poems, and this is what happened.
Iresioni si kaferin ke pionas artus ke melien kotili. Και αιών αποψίσαστε και κυλικά εζωρών, όσαν με θείουσα καφεύει.
So this is one poem about iresioni, and there's another one.
Δώμα προσετραπόμεστα, ανδρός μεγαδυναμένιο, ως μεγαμενδύνατε, μεγαδευρέμι, ολβίωσεη. Θύρε ανακλίνεστε, πλούτος εσυσί, συν πλούτο εφροσύνη, ειρήνη τ' αγαθή.
And it goes on, it talks about the doors that have to be open in order for wealth to come in the house, which is very relevant to our Christmas carols, especially in the villages and the islands, where the kids still sing about the wealth of the earth, of the plants, of the crops, to come in the house through the open doors. So we find this connection there. Through these activities, our students experience the custom as a living tradition singing related songs, creating their own branch, their own iresioni, acting much like the children from ancient Greece. This way, they connect to the language, they connect to the cultural heartbeat of the past, they connect their lives to the past. And they do learn, and they learn in such a fascinating way. So, in order to teach full immersion to our students and teachers, we use a combination of simplified and original texts, but we also create our own. When they're about 9 years old, we introduce our children to carefully adapted stories and dialogues, where the majority of the vocabulary is already familiar to them. As their confidence grows, we gradually guide them to explore original ancient Greek texts, starting with simpler ones, of course, written predominantly in the Hellenistic Kyni dialect, which is very close to modern Greek. Unfortunately, the way ancient Greek is traditionally taught in the schools often reduces it to a dry exercise in memorizing complex grammatical rules, endless tables of regular and irregular verbs and the principal parts, along with the prepositions that they are used with, completely losing the elements that make the language beautiful. All these rules strip the language of its vitality and relevance and disconnect students from the culture and history it represents. This is harmful to the language itself, but most of all to the students, who miss the opportunity to engage with one of the most profound and influential traditions in human history. At Elliniki Agogi, we take the opposite approach. We believe that the key to making ancient Greek engaging and accessible lies in carefully selecting texts that captivate and inspire. So we carefully choose texts that are beautiful, meaningful, and when possible, fun. One of the books we often use is Lucian's Dialogues of the Gods. Take, for example, the story of the birth of Athena. After reading the story, we assign roles to the students. One becomes Zeus, another Hephaestus, and of course, another one becomes Athena. The children act the scene out, bringing it to life as Hephaestus, limping dramatically, opens the head of the suffering Zeus. Of course, we use props: shields, armor, helmets, and swords. The children absolutely adore this hands-on approach and eagerly learn their lines so they can participate in the play. This is fun, creative, and extremely educational in the most immersive possible way. As the students progress, we introduce simple philosophical texts adapted to their age and language skills. A favorite among our class is Plato's allegory of the cave, which we also modify into the Hellenistic Kyni dialect. But even this, we don't teach only as theory. Instead, we bring it to life. The students take on roles, acting as the prisoners in the cave. And then we relate the shadows to modern phenomena like social media. We ask them, does this story sound familiar to you? What are the modern day shadows? How often do you see something online believing it's true while it isn't? Who do you think controls these shadows? Do your friends believe you when you try to tell them to get off social media? How can one escape from the cave? By understanding the texts, students come to understand the very concerns and questions the philosophers struggled with when they wrote them. They see how profoundly modern these ideas are, and in the process, they admire, connect with, and grow to love these timeless works. Later, as their language skills grow, we study drama. Euripides' Helen, for example, is a play that allows us to draw meaningful parallels between its plot and modern-day phenomena, such as Instagram's obsession with external beauty. Just as with the example of the cave, we bring the story to life by having the students dramatize some important scenes. They become the protagonists, and their followers become the digital chorus. As the story unfolds, the students experience firsthand how the chorus shapes public opinion, amplifying judgment or sympathy towards the characters. This dynamic allows them to reflect on how similar patterns play out the same role in the digital world today. Then, we discuss how social media can influence perceptions of beauty, truth, and reputation, just as the chorus influenced the narrative in Helen. How do the illusions and appearances affect relationships? How does public opinion drive decisions and behavior? This way, they internalize the drama's lessons and make them relevant to their own lives. By then, we have fully captured their attention. Grammar and syntax become far more interesting and rewarding since they fully understand the texts we have worked on. This interactive approach to teaching, through dialogues, plays, and active engagement, is of course far from new. It is exactly what William Rouse describes in the preface to Decem Fabulae, published by Oxford's Clarendon Press in 1912. Rouse passionately defended the direct method and emphasized that it is quicker, more attractive, but also much more effective in creating a deep connection with the language than traditional methods. He constantly spoke about the value of acting out plays and stories, noting that this method immerses students in a vivid and imaginative world where they embody heroic characters, and through this process, students unconsciously absorb vocabulary, syntax, and grammar while enjoying the learning experience. Rouse believed that this approach transforms language learning from a drudgery into an opportunity for self-expression, cultivating a lifelong love for the subject. This is exactly what we try to achieve at Elliniki Agogi through the active method. We pass on values, meanings, and the profound legacy embedded in ancient Greek, a language that carries the wisdom of philosophers, the courage of heroes, and the timeless ideals of freedom, democracy, and justice. These were the gifts that ancient Greece offered to the world. This is why so many people are still inspired far beyond its borders. It is no surprise, then, that throughout history, Greece has stirred the hearts of Philhellenes, those who have admired and supported Greek culture and its enduring legacy. From the Renaissance to the Romantic era, Philhellenes embraced Greek values, studied the language, and immersed themselves in its literature and history. They saw in Greece a universal light, one that could guide humanity through its darkest moments. Among these Philhellenes was a remarkable young man who traveled to Greece from Oxford during its struggle under Ottoman rule. Though he only lived 28 years, he left behind an essay that captured his profound admiration for the Greek people and the connection to their ancestors. This man, Frederick Sylvester North Douglas, stands as a shining example of the bond between Greece and those who have loved and championed it. North Douglas's admiration for Greece and its people is beautifully captured in his essay on certain points of resemblance between the ancient and modern Greeks. Written after his visit to Greece in 1810, it reflects his deep understanding of both the ancient and modern worlds. Remarkably, Douglas was only 19 years old when he first traveled to Greece, yet he already possessed a profound knowledge of ancient Greek, which allowed him to engage directly with ancient texts, drawing comparisons that give his work extraordinary depth and authenticity. In his essay, Douglas identifies striking similarities between the ancient Greeks and their descendants. He speaks of their resilience and love of freedom, connecting these traits to the heroism found in Homer and Thucydides. He observes their sharp wit and intellectual curiosity, reminiscent of Socratic dialogues. He marvels at their hospitality, which he links to the ancient tradition of philoxenia, celebrated in the works of Homer. Throughout his essay, Douglas continually references the ancient texts that informed his perspective and demonstrated his deep knowledge, but also his genuine love for Greece and its people. For those who lived centuries ago, including the great Philhellenes, Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, Thomas More, and so many more, learning Greek connected them to the universal truths expressed in the works of Homer, Plato, Sophocles, and countless others, truths that also ignited their passion for Greek civilization and its enduring legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed professors, today we stand at a crossroads. In a world increasingly defined by rapid technological change and shifting priorities, we need to turn to one of the most anthropocentric cultures that has ever existed, with one of the most accurate languages in history, Greek. Because it is the Greek language that places the human being at the center of philosophy, literature, art. It teaches us about our responsibilities to one another, about courage in the face of adversity, and about the pursuit of truth and internal beauty. In this age, as artificial intelligence transforms how we live and learn, staying connected to our humanity has never been more critical. The know thyself, το γνώθεις αυτόν, is always there to remind us of the importance of self-awareness, of staying grounded in the human experience, even as we navigate the complexities of a rapidly evolving world. Greek, with its depth, accuracy, and focus on the human condition, offers a way to anchor ourselves and find meaning at a time of change. At Elliniki Agogi, it is our mission to share this love for the Greek language with as many children as possible, because children have an incredible way of inspiring change. And when the children begin to ask for a better way to learn, the method will inevitably change, and the light of the classics will guide and inspire, offering knowledge, but also the wisdom the world so urgently needs. Έχω διμήν πλήστας χάριτας της ακροάσεως ένεκα. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Eugenia.
so much.
And,
I hope you enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it tremendously and learned a lot about what you do.
Thank you.
I have some questions,
Of
and
course.
what I will do is I'll spend a few minutes asking my questions and then perhaps throw open
Of course.
to the audience, if that's all right.
Yes.
I should just introduce myself. I'm Armand D'Angour. I'm a professor of classics here and a tutor at Jesus College. And at Jesus, I should say, at Jesus College for the last 5 or 6 years, we have been teaching Latin and now Greek using the active method. We have teachers who speak to students in Latin and Greek and teach them the grammar and the literature in the original languages. And that has proved, and my colleague Dr. Melinda Letts has shown statistics proving that it has greatly improved the linguistic ability of those students who are taught in that way. So I'm very pleased to hear that you're a devotee of immersing youngsters in this, especially Greek youngsters, it makes absolute sense, doesn't it, that the language that you grow up with, which is a direct descendant of the ancient Greek that we learn and study, should be taught to young Greeks. Not
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And those of us who learn it and teach it in England have various immediate thoughts when we hear you talk about it. One, which I hope we can try and knock on the head now, is the question of how it's pronounced. Now, often I say to my students, pronunciation that we use in the English-speaking world for ancient Greek is based on the evidence of the very ancient texts, on the fact that we know, for example, that the accent was a pitch accent and not a dynamic one. But it moved in the ancient times, so that by the time we get to, well, Lucian, who you mentioned, the Dialogues of the Gods, so Lucianos, by the time you get to the early centuries AD, it sounded a lot more like modern Greek than it did ancient Greek. You already had the eta being pronounced as an E, alpha iota being pronounced A, so it would be K, not Chi. And so when students say, how should it be pronounced? Because I have friends who pronounce it differently. My answer often is, well, do you want to pronounce it in the time of Euripides or in the time of Hadrian? Because
and then Boeotia or Evia or in Athens. Or
so is that something that you would agree with, that the actual pronunciation, of course, Greeks today will want to hear it largely in your own way of thinking, and also with the stress accent?
It's a very complicated matter, and it needs a whole discussion to figure it out. At Ελληνική Αγωγή, we start with children when they're very, very young. So, and we end when they're like 16 years old. So we don't get into the pronunciation at all, because our aim is to help them love the language and not be too detailed about it, about the centuries, about the dialects, about the places where it was spoken. So we don't deal with the pronunciation at all. But even when I'm abroad and people talk to me in lots of different, I mean, Germans speak different, English speak different, and French speak completely different. So I don't get into the discussion of pronunciations anymore. I used to in the beginning, but not anymore, because the aim of everybody is to read and understand the texts. So it doesn't really matter in which pronunciation you read the text, as long as you understand them and you can discuss about them, and you use some of the wisdom of the text in your life. And of course, you need to take under consideration that we are not a university. We are not an academic institution. We are an extracurricular activity. Our children come to us for 90 minutes per week. We see them once a week. Those kids have so many other things to do, athletics and foreign languages and music lessons, and yet they devote their time to come to us. So what we want to do is to make them love the language, learn it as much as possible, see the connections of modern Greek, see the continuity, enriching their vocabulary in modern Greek, because there's so many words in ancient Greek that we still use today in modern Greek, but we don't know because we don't use them in our everyday speech. But by learning ancient Greek, they get to learn so many more words. They learn the traditions, they learn the history. So the pronunciation is not something that we really work on at Elliniki.
No, but when they move on, perhaps they will come across Homer in dactylic
in the
hexameters.
University, maybe.
Well,
yes.
I mentioned that because, I mean, you put the agermi.
Yes.
And, of course, that is in dactyls.
Yes.
But the way it's written and pronounced, as prose, say, on your slide, so they wouldn't have been able to understand that from there.
That's okay.
But they can move on and do that.
That's perfectly fine.
Are they happy to do that?
Yes.
Will they be?
Yes.
They'll be happy to say, well, actually, because of the way the meter works, it would have been pronounced slightly differently, well, rather differently, without the stress. Yeah, it'll come.
We don't really know how they will react when they come across, you know, this subject. But insist on having them understand the words, the meanings, the customs, the history, the beauty of the language, the rich vocabulary and everything that it represents for us.
So one of the things that you stress is the continuity and the links with the ancient world. What about the sheer foreignness and alienness of it? I mean, because that's something that certainly intrigued me when I started learning Greek. It seems so different. I mean, you know, they're used to the world of social media and Instagram and so on. Yes, you can make those links, but can't you also say, look, this was a rather different world? And one of the reasons we enjoy it so much is because we find it challenging to get to grips with that difference. Well, in Greece, we, you know, because of the teaching method and because of everything, all the changes that have been happening in the educational system, the kids feel that they're alienated from the culture anyway. So we try to stress on the continuity and the similarities to make them feel, to find the connection between the ancient times, the Roman times, the Byzantine times, and then the modern times. So it's very easy. I mean, for them, they understand the differences. They see them, they understand them. And especially in the texts, especially in tragedy and drama, there are, you know, things that do occur as differences between the society back then and the one that we live on now. And their teachers, they do explain it to them. And here I need to stress that I'm not teaching in Elliniki Agogi. I'm just running the school, and I learn with the kids and I learn with the teaching, and I keep on learning, and this is why I enjoy it so much, because it's a constant circle of learning. But what I know that is happening is that we try to connect the children to the language and culture and not stress out so much the differences, because you know, we only see them once a week. So, I mean, this is just a curiosity of mine. When you, as a Greek speaker, hear ancient Greek spoken in the way that you teach it, how does it sound? I mean, does it sound very strange? Not now. In the beginning it did, but not now, not anymore. So you're adding I notice you add the particles, the te and the de, for example, which of course don't exist. Or you use a future form which doesn't exist in modern Greek. And all that just about comes to work for you, does it? Oh yes, it works very much. It works very well. So in the beginning, when I first heard foreigners speak, I couldn't understand anything. And this is a case, you know, when foreigners come to Greece and they try to speak to Greeks, although they know most of the words, they don't understand them, and they say, we don't know ancient Greek. And this is another myth that we try to resolve. We try to tell them that this is words that you know, you don't understand them the way they're pronounced, but these are definitely words that you know. And now, to be honest, I don't mind anymore. It doesn't really sound as weird as it used to when I first started interacting with foreigners. Now it's much better. So if I say, tutto to doron si doso, does that sound very strange
Dos
to you?
mi to doron, dos mi para αυτά.
Okay, which would of course very different from the way you would say it today. Well, not totally different. You
instead of saying dos mi to doron, you say dos mu to doron, to doro, without an N in the end. But everybody will understand if you tell them dos mi to doron. They will maybe look at you in a weird way, and they will say, "You're a friend of Eugenia's, right?" Because you know, I go, you know, I have those Instagram lives, and I speak in ancient Greek in order, you know, to engage the people and show them how it can be done. So everybody who says an ancient word now in Greece thinks that they are my friends, which is flattering, but still. Okay, great. But and finally, just to say, picking up on this idea of the continuity and the discontinuity, to talk about the wisdom and the legacy and the philosophy and so on, of course, one of the great legacies of ancient Greece and of Socrates is precisely argumentation, debate, saying, well, this may not be actually the truth. Let's go further and see if we can. And you instill that as well as one of those features. Of course, absolutely. And you know, at the end of all this, the Platonic dialogues, there is never an end. Like, quite a few of them. You never know what happens, but you just keep on trying to find
and I'll tie that in with your international work, because recently you were in Beijing.
Oh, yes.
So just tell us something about that.
Oh, that was really impressive. In Beijing, they organized, the people from the Academy of Social Sciences in China organized an amazing conference, a huge conference with so many people from all around the world. It was a conference about the classics in general, but what the Chinese introduced is the idea of incorporating Chinese in the classical languages. So instead of having ancient Greek and Latin, to have ancient Greek, Latin, and Chinese, because of in the language being so old and so ancient. It was surprising to many of the people to me as well, that went to the conference. But, you know, they want to have their share in the classics world. So why not? I know they are in Athens right now as we speak, and they're they have found a building to house their academy, the Academy of Classical Studies in Athens. And they're moving on in, you know, they want to go to the universities to have seats of classics that also incorporate Chinese.
Right.
This is very interesting, very impressive. We have to follow it to see how it's going to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Question?
Thank you.
Let me bring the kind of formal side to an end so that James can stop the filming, and
yes.
I'm sure we can get lots of great stuff out of
yes.
what you've been saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you.